On this episode, we're going to be painting the parts. So previously I put this one together with some expanded metal for reinforcement. I liked it, but I like the plate better. But they're going in for paint. But before that, let's talk about two things. First is the polyurethane bushings. So this is the cutaway of the rubber bushing. This is the outside. You can see how it's dried and cracked on the outside, but when you slice into it, it's still soft and functional on the inside. So just because it's 40 years old doesn't mean it has to be replaced. That's what I'm saying. When you're going to replace it though, you're probably going to replace it with these, because most of the supply places do not have rubber bushings. They have polyurethane bushings. There has been some discussion on the internet about these causing binding, breaking hard parts, that kind of talk. I talked to Vicks, I talked to Auto Ricambi, I talked to Midwest Bayless. They all sell these. They haven't had any customer complaints or returns on the bushings. Is it going to ride a little stiffer? Yes. If your 40-year-old rusty car breaks, is it because of the bushing or is it because of the rust? If the suspension component was previously damaged, is it because of the bushing or is it because of the previous damage? When you're working on a 40-year-old car, you have to go through each and every component to make sure it's still serviceable. Part of the reason why I strip everything down to bare metal and weld up all the seams and add the boxing plates is because that's the way it should have been done from the factory. Okay, this is mass produced, so they take a piece of steel, it goes into a machine, it gets stamped into this shape, this gets stamped together, then they put them all together, they spot weld it, they pop rivet it, because that's the way the assembly process works. If you were building this yourself, you would probably be using fully boxed plate instead of this. Is this better? It might be. Is the structural forces of the suspension components working as they should going to damage this and crack this because now this is stiffer and it's supposed to be flexy? I seriously doubt it. But the bottom line is, the parts are available from the suppliers. The suppliers are backing their parts, and we're going to use them. Part of it is our responsibility as the car owner to make sure that everything we're doing is structurally sound, mechanically safe, and put together the right way. If you didn't install it, then you don't really know if it was installed correctly. I'm going to have to edit this all together and see what it looks like. But it's painting day. So this is the sway bar I picked up. I stripped it down. I'm going to repaint it. Why? Because sway bars are supposed to be red. So I got some red. But these other components, this is from the, these are from the kit. So I'm going to show you another reason why I paint stuff. So you've seen me use this before. This is wax and grease remover. It's a solvent that we use for cleaning stuff. So if I take the wax and grease remover and I want to wipe off the wax and grease off of this piece, what happens is the paint comes off. This tag. So I can get all the paint off of there. Now, if I take the same wax and grease remover and I rub it on the pore 15, nothing's coming off. I can rub on this all day long and it's not going to come off. It's resistant to the chemical processes. So oils, gases, road debris, road grime, it's not going to degrade this paint. Some people said I should have powder coated these. Yeah, you can do that. I mean, I don't have a powder coating oven big enough to put this in. If I tried to stick this in my wife's oven, she'd have a fit. It wouldn't fit in the first place. So the pore 15 is the best next step for protecting your parts from everything else. So if I installed this, it's going to get schmutz all over it because of the car, right? And it's going to degrade the paint and come off. And then when the paint comes off and it gets wet, then it's going to rust. And, you know, as long as you don't let it rust all the way apart, you're fine. But I don't like rust on my car, so that's why it's getting stripped and painted. On this episode, we're removing the bushings from the rear suspension 84 Bertone X19, Fiat X19. So you can use a shop press, you can use a vise, or you can use a tool. I have all three. The hardest way is using the vise. I did that before on the 79 Fiat Spider. So if you want to learn how to do it with a vise, I suggest you go over there. But if you're going to vise it, you're going to need a socket that's bigger that goes around on this outside edge, and a socket that's smaller that goes around on this inside edge that pushes the bushing through this sleeve. So this part isn't going to move. It's brazed into place. So you're going to push through that with your tool. You can get one of these ball joint removal and installation tools off the internet. This one is, I don't know, they're not that expensive, but they come in handy. So this inside ring is for pushing through, and you got to figure out your diameter in order to have the space. The tool comes with these little doodads for pushing and pulling. I keep saying pulling, but we're not pulling. And then it has a center cap, and then this thing will go in here and lock into place if it wasn't bent, but we might be able to bend it. And then this will slide over. Slide over our doodad. And we line this up on our tool, on our and then we got to push. And this is going to be slightly too big. You can see right now. What is this? Oh, it's a 26 millimeter. It's the wrong size. I was using the 15, 16. Sure. You could possibly destroy this So use one that you don't need. And then, why is my X-Acto knife not over here? Why is it back where it belongs? These, pick a side, any side, and stick with it. I could flip it over and do it from this side, but then it's going to hang off. This way at least it stays on the bench. So what I'm going to do is cut this rubber. But you'll be able to see the sleeve in the sleeve. And this one looks pretty close, because I want to push it out. So this bushing doesn't look too bad. I mean, we've pushed it in and messed it all up, but from looking at this rubber inside, it's still nice and soft, and it's pliable, and it's still gripping everything that it's supposed to. So did it need to be replaced? Not really. Just looking from the outside though, they're going to look more cracked and more messed up than they are. Well, in this case. So I was mistaken. That's not the last video for this, but this is. So before I paint this, I want to put these bushings in. That way I don't mess up my paint when I put them in after painting. So what I like to do is take a side, pick a side, and we're going to put a little edge on it. So we beveled this. That'll get us kind of close to the hole. Sometimes you can get it started like that. Now then, this part will rest up against that sleeve. So this is the part where you could put it in a vise and squeeze it, but this is easier as long as it don't pop. That's what happens when you have it in reverse.
me sing. Your hard luck woman ain't learned a goddamn thing. Well, you shine so bright and come on strong. One day here and the next day gone. Said you're one day here and the next day gone. Come around here looking for all you can take. Move me so hard, make my poor heart shake. Make my poor heart shake. Chasing you, woman, I'm chasing my tail. Can't catch either, so it's just as well. So it's just as well. Love like that, it can't last long. You're one day here and the next day gone. You're one day here and the next day gone. Lightning in a bottle shines so bright. Seen you, baby, just the other night. I said I seen you, baby, just the other night. Well, listen here, baby, can't you hear me sing? You're a hard luck woman, ain't learned a goddamn thing. Well, you shine so bright and come on strong. One day here and the next day gone. Well, you're one day here and the next